Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Angular Q&A gaming stream, Totally Gaming. I will be your host today, Mark Thompson, and your game player today. Today is my turn to play some games. We have the phenomenal Jessica Janik in the building, the Punder Woman here in the building, and of course, the man of the hour, Mr. Jeremy Elborn. How are you
If
folks
if
doing?
we can move the A up a little bit, we could pretend it's on my mantle.
Let's go. I wish I had the
Pushing it
code.
didn't
That'd
work.
be fun. Yeah,
It's really
the
stuck
pushing
there.
didn't work.
I'm pushing it didn't work.
Uh, oh, Jessica, don't even start. Jessica's always ready. Let's go. Let's go. We got Code in the building. Code is leaving us lots of love. We are so grateful that you are here. People should be coming in, hanging out. What have you folks been playing since our last hangout?
Oh boy. I'm on high. I took a I got my Steam Deck, right? So
Hmm.
this okay Steam Deck here, and I've been almost exclusively playing on that. So I haven't really played Elden Ring. Uh, I was I'm quite far along in Elden Ring, but I have kind of taken a break from it. And some of the games I've been going through on Steam Deck, revisiting Hades, Skull, the Hero Slayer, played a little bit of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, and Tunic. Oh, loved Tunic. And just recently I started playing Nobody Saves the World, which I have feelings about, but we probably don't need to get into them here.
Okay, but wait, we got to tell the streets something very important. So Jeremy messaged me and told me that Tunic was a masterpiece, and I take Jeremy's opinion pretty seriously, just because he doesn't really throw around terms like that, easily. So the fact that Tunic is ranking so high definitely gives me some energy to want to play it.
I stand by it.
I have been playing a number of games since the Steam Deck arrived. I played a bit of Disco Elysium. I've been playing on Jeremy's recommendation a little bit of Tunic. What else did I pick up since the Steam Deck? Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, uh, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider. I also have been playing some of the new Turtles game. That's been a lot of fun. I like that game a lot.
I want to play the Turtles game, and I want us all to play on stream. So Jeremy, we should powwow about our stance, because friends at home. So here's the thing: we actually don't like to play games that portray violence on stream if we can. So that's the thing. So that somehow limits our selection of games that we can play. But the Turtles game, it's oh.
Maybe we do an evening stream on our personal accounts instead of an official Angular thing.
Oh, that could work. That could totally
Ang-
work.
Angular Gaming After Dark.
Something like that. Yeah. Right.
Back when
Exactly. So.
Steven and I, quite a while ago, when Steven and I first started doing these gaming streams, we were doing them at 10 o'clock at night or something like that.
It's so late. That is so late. I'm such an old man. I'm 10 o'clock
Oh
at
yeah,
night. People are still awake.
I go to bed at 10:30.
there's there's some the folks asking about whether the Steam Deck is worth it, and to answer that question, I would say yes. I really enjoy it. The biggest complaints I have about it are physical size. It's giant. It takes up a big
Massive. This
chunk
thing
of
is
space
huge.
in, like if you're traveling or like in an airplane, it really takes up so much space in your backpack. And then the battery life is pretty darn short. Like 2 hours probably is what you can get out of it. So but aside from that, I think it's a great little device, and well, it's a great sizable device, and I really have enjoyed it so
Right.
far.
Yeah, I like my Steam Deck. I haven't gotten the full chance to really take advantage, but I'll have some forced downtime coming up that I will not be able to use my PlayStation or anything else, and I'll be uh, just able to use my hands. And so the Steam Deck is probably going to be my number one. I have been playing Control for the last few weeks. And I've been telling Jessica about this, and we've been going back and forth. Like, I was the story is slowly appealing to me. When I first started my first like 5 hours, I was just like, "What is this?" It's too abstract for me, just because not enough information, and it felt like they wanted me to know more than I knew, and I just didn't latch on to the motivation of the protagonist. That was my big thing. I'm like, "Well, why are you here? Like, what are we doing? And are you talking to me when you're talking to the other person, or are you talking to somebody? You know what I mean? Like, I just couldn't get it. But the visuals kept me engaged because I'm playing on PS5 on the like visual mode. That kept me engaged, and then the gunplay is actually pretty solid in control. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I'm liking it more, but I was not sold on the first like 3 hours.
Hmm. So it's interesting. I loved that thing at the beginning you're talking about where there is kind of this breaking of the fourth wall of like in a sense, right? Like the character is talking to you, the player, even though there is actually like kind of this narrative reason in universe of like why this is happening. And I thought that was like a really creative storytelling technique for like interactive media. But yeah, it
Yeah,
was fun.
I loved Control. I found the entire story to be like so creative, such that it was very compelling to me. It was so
Mm-hmm.
different from anything that I played, and um, I love the main character, and the gameplay is just so much fun.
Hmm.
I want more of it. I want more of it.
I
Yeah,
agree. The gameplay is good. Gameplay is very, very good.
I highly recommend. There's a podcast that sadly not doing new episodes anymore, but from Adam Conover called "Humans Who Make Games," where he has an interview with the lead narrative designer for Control, and she is uh, like she has a lot of insights into the creation of that narrative and how they really developed it like hand in hand with the gameplay, as opposed to some games where it's like, here we have a game, go make up a story for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's that? Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, where they came up with the chopping mechanic, and they were just like, "All right, now write a story for it, and like make this mechanic work in the world." And they couldn't do it, right? And they actually had to kind of scrap what they had and like come and scale it back quite a bit. Too bad though, because I really did like the idea of being able to slice through anything. And do you remember the demo of the watermelon slicing from that when they showed when early on that they could do like fine slices of an in-game watermelon with the sword play and Metal Gear Solid Revengeance, and I remember that thinking like, oh, that's gonna be amazing. But anyway, let's see. Let's look at some of the comments we got in the building. Matthew says that we're thanks for doing this. Always enjoy listening along. Matthew, we enjoy you being in the building. Thank you for that. James, thank you for watching. No, you're doing great. Okay, just want to let you know you're doing great. Thanks for being part of the Angler community. Child, you always in the building. We love you. You always here. How's the Steam Deck? I think we all agree that it's worth it. But I agree with the the space problem that Jessica said. I traveled with it recently, and the problem I actually had with it was I had too many things to open. I had to open my giant headphone case on security. I had to open the Steam Deck. I had to open my laptop bag. You know what I mean? I had to open all these things. I'm just like, man, some of this could just stay home because this is getting to be out of control. Let's see. Code asks, what happened to the other persons, other people? Well, I think they're working, and this is part of our job today that we get to play video games on stream. So we get to have that.
Speaking of playing
Ivan in
games
the
on
building.
stream,
Oh yeah, let's do it.
what are we playing
Let me
today?
add this game. We are playing something. I'm gonna play Hot Wheels. My frame rate may be like 10 frames per second, depending on how this comes through.
Yeah, we gotta
So
figure out how to get that like crisp 4K 60 FPS streaming going on.
yeah, yeah, we do have to figure that out. Let's see some of these cars. So I bought this game for my kid. Oh, Jessica, I should race in this car in honor
You
of
should race
you.
in. You should do it. Yes.
All right, just in honor of Jessica. I bought this game for my kid, and it turned out to be amazing. And I really, really like this as an arcade racer. Let's see if I can remember how to play. How's the frame rate? Is it really bad?
Let
It's
me
not terrible. It's tolerable.
let me check over on on YouTube here.
On YouTube, it's probably gonna be like.
I've got the stream up on my laptop to my left here, which is why I keep like looking over here. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, right now it's got a little bit of choppiness going on. We'll see how it is once you start going. Oof.
I haven't played this in weeks.
That's
so
rough.
Oh yeah, it is
really bad.
It's pretty bad.
You're getting maybe like 6 frames per second on the stream.
Oof.
Wait. I'll play a different game. All right, I'll play Astro.
If you're in performance mode, you may wanna, or like whichever mode you're in, you could probably switch the.
No, it's not the system. It's StreamYard.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, Chow says that's right.
This thing is optimized for our nice, beautiful faces that don't move very much and our backgrounds that don't change very much.
So speaking of like being optimized, so I recently did a talk at Render ATL just about like the modern web and all the cool things you can do. And part of the demo that I built was kind of like this thing, like kind of StreamYard where you can do like peer to peer like video. And it's amazing to me what the modern web APIs can do now. And you don't need like a library to do this. Like we could build in Angular, because I actually used Angular for it. We could flesh out like a StreamYard clone. Oh man, I'm looking at the like stream on my side, and even this looks pretty bad, but it's probably not as bad as you know, the racing game. Let's see. Okay, wow. Himanshu came in hot. He wants to know the answer to this question. Okay, so why is there nothing similar to form array in template-driven forms?
Yeah, I don't actually know. I think this might be one of those places where reactive forms is just kind of like because the two systems are different systems, they have different sets of features, and this may just be something that is a feature of reactive forms that maybe just doesn't make sense for template-driven forms.
I think that's true. I think that's true.
So I just realized something though. I'm punching people. Does that count as violence?
You're performing percussive maintenance
to their faces. Yes.
Oh man. All right. We might have to. You know what? Let's think about maybe extending our range to say games without like maybe blood or guns or something, and consider that as like a.
I mean, the way games kind of rate these things is like there's cartoon violence and then there's like graphic violence.
That's just true. That's true. Oh, and you know what? I would say this. Friends at home, you all definitely put your questions so we can answer them because we're hanging out and talking. But I'm sorry to block your face with the questions, Jessica. We still care about you. There you go. Do we use GitHub Copilot? I think this is more of a personal question. I don't think this is about like a work question.
No, I don't.
I don't either.
What's your feeling about it?
I barely code anymore. So when I do, I feel like it would just really be more of a distraction than anything else. I don't know. When I code, it's like I know what I'm trying to do. I know what I need to write, and I don't need like AI to autofill in stuff for me.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
If it's helpful, like I don't have a problem with it, but I think funny story though about GitHub Copilot. Early on, it was actually auto suggesting one of our team members to public users to assign to dos. Which is funny.
Joey for to-dos.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's really funny. Okay, I like that. That's funny. I mean, I like the idea of it. I think like this. You know, if you're building a big system, and there are like small things you want to just throw into the mix, I think it could be cool. I do think it could be cool. Like, man, how do I write? You know, this like, I don't know. you know, I can't even think of a good reason anymore because the APIs for JavaScript have evolved so much. I was gonna say, where you write taking something and swapping it real quick, talking positions. That's like a one-liner now because of modern JavaScript. But I used to see like writing a swap function and be like, oh yeah, GitHub Copilot, give me that so I can just continue working. The same way the same way Google Docs suggests the next word in my sentence. It doesn't change the work that I'm doing. It just kind of can boost productivity. But all the times, I don't even do the auto suggest for the rest of the sentence. Sometimes I just type it because I'm in the flow. So it kind of depends.
Yeah, one of the things I think is interesting in the conversation around Copilot is the sentiment that, like, hey, GitHub Copilot trained on free open source data, and it's like weird for them to make it a paid product. And I don't know if I really agree with that take, right? Like, there's a like open source software, like obviously like there are license restrictions around it, right? And so that's kind of its own thing. But like let's maybe like just talk about like things that are like Apache license, MIT license, which I think is like the vast majority of things in the front end space, at least, so like stuff I'm familiar with, is like all MIT and Apache license. It's like you put that code out there for people to use, and
right,
it's like this is just another way of using the code, right? It's like we have no problems with like the whole point of Angular is like people can take it and build whatever they want. They can build paid products with it. They can build free products with it, and
they do build paid products with it.
Yeah,
Lots of people.
overwhelmingly so.
Right.
But like I don't know that I feel like the using analysis on the code itself is any different than using the code. Now, I think there is like you get into this situation of like, well, what about there's like LGPL, like copyleft code, and there's code with more restrictive licenses that's like open source for free use. And that one, I don't know, that's a question for the lawyers. Clearly GitHub and Microsoft have a team of crack legal experts that have decided that this is okay.
I was gonna say Microsoft's legal team has probably been like top notch since like the '90s, right? When the first kind of lawsuits came out, they probably like lawyered up to like ultra level, right? But then also think about this: uh, if it's being trained on the code versus copying and pasting, right? So is it going to copy and paste code from GitHub verbatim that it saw in a repository, or is it trained to create something same way like DALL-E can like make an image that we describe because it's been trained on all these images. It's not copying and pasting those images. It's a derivative work for sure, right? So is the code a derivative work, or is it like a copy of that original work? I don't know. Just that that's what I'm kind of asking too. Something to think about. Something. What do you all think about though? You understand the GitHub stream and the Angular stream right now. Audience for our friends out there, what do you think about GitHub Copilot? How are you using it for your work? Okay, let's see. I saw one thing that was interesting. Somebody says, who was that? Oh, so Chow has a good take here. I like that take. Just says I only use it when I do Markdown, right? Or writing docs. I didn't even think about it in Markdown because how many times do you have to do like a Google search to remember which way to put the parentheses and square brackets when you're linking something? Sorry, I gotta swing my controller around to like do this stuff. This gave me an entire like demo of the controller, essentially. So you gotta like get physical. Really great. You gotta go this way though.
Yeah, this was I enjoyed playing this. It was like a fun little romp.
I mean, I'm surprised at how good the demo is in general, considering like free demos don't come anymore, and this is like almost a Mario 1 level demo, almost not quite, right? But like getting up there. All right, let's look at some more people's feedback here. Here's a question. What's up, Alex? Alex in the building. What's going on? Good to see you. How does designing for a framework differ from more general software design?
Let's see. Well, in a lot of ways, it's different, and in a lot of ways, it's very similar.
Yeah,
So,
would agree.
places where it's different, you have to care more about low-level optimizations that most application code never needs to worry about,
Yep.
Yep.
right? So, like, Angular has to deal with a good example of this is like making sure most of what it's doing in the like framework internals is not uh, or is monomorphic as much as possible and not like megamorphic or polymorphic, which can like slow down via like or prevent V8 optimizations.
What do those
And
words mean, Jeremy? Monomorphic and polymorphic.
so the way JavaScript engines work, this is like an extremely hand wavy explanation of this, is that
Sure.
different objects have different shapes to them, and the engine can optimize things better when things have a very consistent shape. But if you change the shape of an object, then you lose that optimization. And so the monomorphic is kind of the optimization of like you are not changing object shapes, and you're like kind of sticking to these like consistent shapes, whereas polymorphic is like, oh, you're changing it but only a little bit, and megamorphic is like you're changing it a lot. This is like the simplest, most hand wavy explanation of that. That's missing a lot of details, but
No,
there's
that's great.
good writing about it out there that you can pursue if you're interested in the actual details.
I would like there's that issue, but there's also like thinking about the symbols you're exporting and how you have to think about the size of like the code size that you influence on and put on the framework with the change that you write. So every little bit affects what the end user is going to experience with the bundle that they build. And you also have to very carefully think about what you break and how you break stuff. And like when you're doing application development, you have a lot more control over your user base and like how you can make feature changes. But when you're doing like a framework, you have to think about like every like the like hundreds of thousands of developers that are writing code and the applications that already exist, and whether this change this that you're introducing and how it changes behavior in a very breaky way is something that your users can effectively bear, whether you can migrate them safely, and that consideration is a hard challenge to have to solve as you work on your code.
Yeah, I
And it
do.
comes to like accepting code contributions too, because like some contributions we'll receive may be a really great change, but we have to, as we like review it and consider it, we have to think about that exact same consideration. So
Yeah, I do miss that sometimes about working on just product, of being able to just be like, I don't like this, I'm going to change it. And you just like can't do that with like library infrastructure framework code.
Mm. Hey, there you are. There you are. All right, so let's see. Let's get some more questions from the community. Let's see. That was a great question. Uh-oh. This is Jeremy's third question. What are your thoughts on the hydration process when using Angular Universal for server-side rendering? Any chances of moving to a partial hydration model in the future?
Well, there is no hydration process for Angular Universal today. So there's that. We are going to be investigating hydration in the second half of this year, and Jessica's actually going to be one of the people working on that.
oh hi, at me. Yeah, we're aware that the current situation is not ideal, and that there's a lot of room for improvement, but we have a lot of research to do before we can make any real solid recommendations or suggestions on what we want to do with the future direction of it. So stay tuned, I guess.
So GitHub Copilot for me just streamlines my day to day. It's literally like having a pair programming session. That's great to hear. I love that you're having such a good experience with it. I want to try it. I've never tried it before. I wonder, are they gonna? Yeah. So I went to another conference recently. I did 2 conferences in 2 weeks, and one of the tasks was to build something really fast. And I really felt like, but it wasn't like a programming challenge. It was just like, hey, build a command line CLI. Dang, keep forgetting this thing is right here, and I keep ignoring it. And the thing is, there's a bunch of like basic setup for using like Inquirer from like Node, and I just really wish that I had like some snippets that I could just throw in because they had nothing to do with my logic. It was just about like all the setup and like So I wonder if how could GitHub Copilot evolve into supporting the APIs of a library? Like, what if there was Copilot for Angular, where like it could suggest the right library for what you're trying to do as you're typing it? Like, hey, it looks like you're going to work with a stream of data somehow. We could figure that out, right? And then it suggests like the right patterns to like go from there. That I think is interesting, right? Because I don't think GitHub Copilot is going to replace anybody's job. I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, we don't need engineers because we have Copilot. I think though there's some interesting opportunities to optimize your focus on your project and not on the other things. Um, let's see. Oh, let's look at this one. Ivan says, could you explain the main purpose of the lifecycle hook do check? Isn't that the one we say don't use?
Yeah, that is the one we tell people generally not to use. Honestly, it doesn't have a great explanation. It's more. So I'm in the middle of rewriting the component documentation for Angular.io, and this is the part I haven't gotten to yet, and I've been grappling with what I'm going to write about it. The original intent of it is that it's like, oh, well, if you have some state and you are tracking that state outside of Angular's own change detection system, this is the place you would do that. But there's not really a very good answer for like, why would you want to do that? So maybe a simpler answer is it gets called while Angular is doing change detection and not after, which ng changes does. And because it happens while, it's very like you have a lot of opportunities to de-optimize yourself if you do weird stuff in it.
Okay, before we move on to the next question, I want to know, did either of you see the trophy I got?
I did. It was a nice
Ready for
reference
improving.
to Horizon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't see that before when I played this before. I didn't see the Ready for the Proving reference. That was pretty great. I like that a lot. Okay, let's see. Okay, great answer. No problem.
This is proving to
Hey,
be a
why
great
are you
stream.
guys wasting your time here? Because we like video games and we like the community and we like hanging out and answering questions and supporting everyone who's watching and making sure that if someone comes with a question that we can help unblock them, that we're available to do that in a fun and delightful way. Thank you so much for asking that.
Yeah. Besides, if you had the opportunity to sit down and play video games during work, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess people, it's not fun for everybody to have fun at work. You got to be serious. Justin, Jeremy, be more serious. All right.
I don't have that serious of a setting.
We should be writing this game in Angular, not playing it.
That would go pretty badly. We could make
Yeah.
like I put on our list, Mark, like we could make a game during one of these, but it would have to be something basic. Like we could make like Spades or Minesweeper.
I've been thinking about. I saw that suggestion, and I think we should. So, all jokes aside, I really do think that we can make one of these into like an actual build a game, type of thing. That could be fun. That'd be great. I would like to do that. Like, do that. Just make a game, but no, nothing graphically like super intense though.
Yeah, card games are good.
Oh no!
Puzzle games.
Wait, look at the trophy. It just said what I said. No, no, no. All right, these people are funny.
Yeah.
I like this team. I want them to make more games.
That's one of the things I loved about Hades is that a lot of times the characters, Agrius, would express a sentiment that is like exactly what I was thinking at the time, right? It's like they recorded playtesters and just like,
Yeah.
oh, like, when this happens, someone says that, and then they like had him say it at that moment.
That's pretty great. All right, we're gonna get some more. You can call out some more while I'm doing this little section. Some more like comments.
Let's see over here. There's a question here. What tools do we use at Google for integration and end-to-end testing? It's complicated. Right now, most Google apps just use Protractor with WebDriver, obviously, and that is the vast majority of Angular apps inside of Google. There are a limited number of apps that do use Java WebDriver tests with Angular apps because they like to. And that is a valid option. It sometimes makes it a little bit harder for us to go and debug them if we need to, but we're also like kind of in a phase right now of Google where we're trying to like look at what do we want to move towards in terms of end-to-end testing, because like Protractor is kind of doesn't have a great reason for existing anymore. So, Protractor was originally created way back in the AngularJS days, and it served a really important purpose then of being able to give you better APIs for dealing with async stuff and for waiting for Angular to stabilize and things like that. But since the time Protractor was created, the end-to-end and integration testing landscape in the broader web ecosystem has evolved very significantly, and you have tools out there right now like WebDriver IO and Cypress, and there's another one I'm blanking on, but just these really dedicated, well-crafted tools that do so much more than what Protractor was designed to do. And so we are like similarly in a phase there, or what is the direction that Google should kind of move towards these days for Angular apps?
And I will say one thing about that. I'm actually in the middle of writing a new blog about what the future of Protractor is. So if you folks are interested, that will be available probably the next week or so. You'll see some more details about that. We're writing it right now.
Did everything I say align with your blog, Mark?
Yeah, that was good. I was keeping my fingers crossed. Like, please don't say something that's not true. That I'm not gonna actually say we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Mark, has this blog post been a protracted amount of time for getting it done?
Oh my gosh! I'm about to take you off of the stream. You gotta go. Let's see. We got Robin in the building. Robin, listen, it's always time. It's the right time whenever you come. So good to see you as always. Let's see. We got Kelly. Kelly in the building. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Good to have you here. Let's see what's going on. Here we go. Ivan is asking a bunch of great questions. Jeremy, will there be a guy?
Maybe. We have a new like lead tech writer for Angular now, and so we've been kind of doing some discussions about future work for our doc site. So I'm actually working on a like total rewrite of the components guide. And I think that there is probably going to be like some similar attention. This is a long-term project though, of like towards the core guides on AIO of like components, directives, DI, router forms, and my goal is to try to fill in a lot of the gaps that we have today. So a good example here in the components guide is we have no documentation of what kind of selectors, or very limited documentation of what kind of selectors you can use in Angular components and directives. It's really poorly defined. And so in the new draft I'm working on, like that's a gap I try to cover. And I think there's probably similar things with router and forms that when we finally get around to doing like a big pass on them, that we'll be able to fill those things out. I don't really have an ETA on it. Unfortunately, my time for like actually sitting down and doing heads down writing time is pretty limited. My day is like, my week is like more than half meetings these days. So we're plugging away, but it's a slow process, unfortunately.
See, Jeremy, you gotta pay the cost to be the boss. That's what happens when you become like team lead.
No, I'm nobody's boss.
Zuber says, can't wait for the blog. Mark just posted on Twitter. You got it, friend. Will do. Here's a good question from Kelly. Why is it so complicated to test with Jasmine? Cypress is easy to use. Well, I think you should test with Cypress then. If you're having a better time with it, go for it. What do you folks think?
I mean, the fact that Angular kind of just defaults to Jasmine for unit test is just kind of another part of the legacy coming back from AngularJS, where like in those days it was probably the best option. And I don't know, there's like, I'm curious to know more about why they say testing with Jasmine is complicated, because it's really like at face value, Jasmine is pretty straightforward. With your like, you got describe blocks, it blocks, and before each, after each, before all, after all, and matchers. It's like all like relatively straightforward. I don't know what's complicated about it unless they're talking about like setup or something. But even then, I don't know. I haven't actually personally used Cypress, so I don't have it as a point of comparison. But my sense is that like a lot of these test frameworks like Jasmine and Mocha and Jest, like they're all kind of roughly interchangeable, right? Like, are they really that different from each other, other than things that are going to just be colored by people's personal preferences?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I've never used Cypress, but I have used Mocha. I've used a few others, and Jasmine and Mocha are pretty interchangeable. There are some test frameworks that do let you do things like shallow DOM rendering and stuff like that, but like I think they're all fairly similar in the functionality that they give you. So I don't know if it's the issue of setup, which I think is really a problem in just about every framework for like confusing difficulty and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I like everything, and I always kind of default to everything is great. So, Kelly, I hope that it works out for you. And we are very good.
Oh, wait.
Thank you so much. Very kind.
I can read this.
Yeah.
Right. They say, I am very good. Thank you. Hope you are as well.
Yep.
Look at you go. Mira, ese es para hablar español con nosotros. He can speak Spanish with us, Kelly. So now.
4 años español en la escuela.
So now you know, Kelly, when you tweet at Journey,
Yo también.
just only use Spanish. And for Jessica as well, tweet at them only in Spanish. Now they can talk with us in Spanish. Let's see what Tayamba says. What's going on? Actually, good to see you. Okay, first and foremost, let me pause the game for a second. I got to say something about Tayamba. Tayamba is very thoughtful person. A lot of times in our video comments, people will be like just talking crap, and Tayamba will come through and provide a lot of like clarity and just be like, look, this is what they're doing, and is always there to support us. I want to let you know that we see you and we appreciate you. So thank you for that. So how come Angular does not have a built-in state management package? Other libs have some equivalent, so why not Angular? Why not Angular?
And that feels like something I have to answer. And There's many answers to this question. One of them is like, it doesn't yet. Another answer is like, there's a lot of community state management solutions, right? There's NGRX, there's what is it? NGXS is another one.
NGXS,
I
yeah.
might be getting that
Nikita.
acronym wrong.
That one's a little excessive, though.
Stop it.
And I've seen people actually just like, I think use Redux directly with Angular before. And like they're like, historically, right, this was something like, it wasn't seen as a core framework thing, right? This was seen as like the framework is lower level than the state management part, right? The framework is like the change detection, the rendering, the DI, and the state management is another layer on top of that. And I think in the early days of the framework, it was, this isn't something that the framework should have an opinion on. This is something that like the team should defer to the community to come up with solutions that work in that space. Like similar to how in like the Angular JS days, there was, how to put this, like there were parts of the ecosystem that weren't really covered by the framework, and they really just evolved out of the community. Like in the early days, right, AngularJS didn't have a UI component library, and that was like the community just kind of like came up with stuff there. Eventually, AngularJS material came into existence, but for a while it didn't have anything, and it was just like, yeah, use ng Bootstrap or something like that. That kind of leads into the question of like, will we create a state management solution? And unclear, right? So we are always talking about the future direction of Angular and where we're moving things. If you saw our director Sarah's talk at the recent JS Nation conference, she talked about some of the future direction stuff we're considering and some of the inspirations we're drawing from on how to evolve the framework. And so it's in the realm of possibility that it's something we move into. But like to be fully transparent, we're more looking at ways for Angular to decrease the scope of things that we're working on rather than increasing it as much as possible. So like Protractor is a good example here we talked about earlier, where like we have this kind of testing tool, Protractor, that doesn't really fit into the modern web development landscape. And obviously we want to provide kind of a smooth off-ramp from Protractor as much as we can, because it's, we try to emphasize stability and reliability on Angular. And so like we take our time with making ecosystem shifts like that, but there's really not that strong of a reason for us to have something like Protractor anymore when things like WebDriver.io and Cypress and like other similar libraries all exist today. And we'll be looking for more places where like there are parts of the ecosystem where we could say, like, does it really make sense for us to be offering this compared to what exists in the landscape today? And it's a very different landscape today than it was 10 years ago when AngularJS 1.0 came out, right? Things that made sense in AngularJS maybe don't make sense anymore for Angular.
My question is, why just state management? Why not also province management?
That's your like second warning, all right?
Second warning. I'm pretty sure there's been more than two.
Keep on going, I see. Province management. All right, let me get some more good questions. We got some good questions today. Thank you. Shout out to Juan Fajer. It's good evening from Uganda. It's good to have you here with us. Thank you so much. I think I know the answer to this one. From Keith, will the reviewing to be removed? It's gone.
It's gone.
It is nothing but a faint aroma lingering in the air at this point.
That's right. Oh, Jean Baptiste has a good question. Do you plan to push standalone components and slowly deprecate NG modules, or do you think NG modules are here to stay?
The answer to that is Probably. So it's not a hard yes, because we actually do want feedback from the community about standalone components and whether or not they're working well before we actually commit to saying like, yeah, ng modules will eventually go away and everything will be standalone, right? Before that happens, we want some more validation from in the field that the community is generally of the consensus of like, yes, this is a good direction. We like this. Let's go there. So that's kind of really the path of far enough. We suspect pretty strongly that it will be good and that this will be the direction that we want to move the framework in. But we are going to stay flexible and not kind of get too tied up in like us trying to drive this and make sure that it's working well for the community.
And Jessica, did you have anything else you want to add to this point?
Not really. Jeremy's got it.
Okay. I was gonna say one thing though is that NG modules like going away completely for it's really like a hard prop because there's so much community content out there that uses NG modules. So we'll have to maintain some support for them for a long time, right? Because we can't force every library or module author to be like, all right, convert everything into standalone components. And that's just not a reasonable ask. So because we don't break people when we do things, our greatest gift to the community, one of the hardest things about developing for Angular, is that we have to think about that.
Yeah.
All right, somebody
Oh, we're getting
blocked.
some
That's too
spam in the chat today, which means
Yeah.
we finally made it, gang.
We made it.
Yeah. Kudos to Mark for both playing the game and also moderating the chat.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, let's see. Our friend Starving Musician is here. Listen, you're finally here, and the party can finally begin. Good to have you. Okay, Jessica, you have people in the streets who want to hear more of your puns and jokes. So
It's a service I provide. What can I say? You will get them whether you want them or not.
oh man, I don't think people understand how prolific people like yourself are in terms of how quick you come up with puns around like conversations. I think when I first met you in your first meeting that I had with you, I was shocked at just how many puns there were at rapid fire succession.
I've described it as there's like a background process running at all times, monitoring what people are saying, and my brain is like riffing on everything as it comes in constantly. So that's why it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really disable it.
You've just got one core dedicated to this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There are times where I have to specifically moderate it though, like where I have to like say, nope, this is not an appropriate time for a joke or a pun or whatever. So
So I have something similar where I'm not always coming up with puns, but I always have a little part of my brain that is just playing a song, right? I always have a song stuck in my head and it's always just like playing, and it tries to substitute lyrics for words that rhyme.
Oh, okay, I get that. I get that.
So right now I have like the song that is playing in my head is House of the Rising Sun, and my brain just keeps trying to substitute different words for sun and rising.
Okay. Oh, okay. So can you share one with us? Sorry, Dante. Didn't mean to punch you.
Like House of the Rising Bun. I think it's about baking.
I wonder how that process is run in your head.
Okay. Unbelievable. Oh, did I just get shot while I was moderating?
Yep.
Okay, PlayStation 5. Yeah, this is called
It's like Astro's Playroom.
Playworld. Yeah, Playroom. Yeah, Astro's Playroom. Yeah, the other game we tried to play, Ace, I'm sorry, it was so bad because of the frame rate that it just didn't work out. Okay, just to follow up on our last conversation, thanks, Jeremy. I teach Angular and NG modules are quite hard to explain. Standalone components makes things much simpler. You know what? I'm going to say from a point, because I do a lot of our Angular teaching through workshops and stuff, it has changed the way that I've been able to teach Angular. So that's good. Okay, one of the latest HTTP 203 series tells all about flip animations. Concept is pretty simple, but it's not currently possible to do with Angular animations. Any improvement? Hey, Jessica.
Aha.
Hey,
uh,
Jessica.
yeah, and Angular animations has had some issues with, like, we didn't have anybody maintaining the package for a while, and now that kind of falls on my shoulders, and we're looking at what we can do to make it a little bit better. But at the same time, we're also kind of trying to assess whether the we were providing the best solution for animations as a whole within that package, and whether it's really worth it to continue to, I guess, support it in the same way that it has been in the past, because it doesn't necessarily provide more industry standard solution out there, like you'll see with other libraries that are more commonly used. So yeah, there are a number of animations and issues where it's very difficult to do them, and we're aware of that. We've got a couple contributors that have been making a lot of improvements to it, and there's some refactoring going on. But longer term, we're kind of trying to figure out what makes sense for animations as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, I will be maybe the bad guy and say, like, we almost certainly won't be adding any new features to Angular animations like in the foreseeable future. Obviously it'll like keep working and stuff, but I wouldn't expect to see much in the way of enhancement there. One of the interesting things is we have been chatting with Chrome a bit on are there any web platform features that could exist that would make doing animations easier in such a way that like frameworks wouldn't even have to have APIs for it anymore. So
Right.
That is kind of really the ideal state in my mind, is that like web frameworks don't even have to do stuff for animations, and instead it can be just like just write some CSS or whatever else.
Yeah. There's a few things we have really talked about with this, and just missing in the spec for HTML and CSS. Like the big issue being when an element is removed, there's no way to animate its removal with CSS. So frameworks have to add specific code to handle that case, and it makes it more complicated because you have to be aware that animations are happening on an element on the removal state, and you have to account for the amount of time that animation is going to be present. So you have to, you just have to add more complexity into your framework to account for that case. So yeah, the ideal situation would be that there are APIs for this that are not, that are native to the platform, that are not needed to be in our framework to accommodate those scenarios.
I have a hot take about animations. Well-defined animations in your application can create such a dynamic experience that you don't need to do a lot of native development.
Yeah.
It's a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody who hasn't checked out, there's a new Chrome proposal, or new proposal from the Chrome folks called what is it? Like Page Transition API, where it gives you a more mobile-like experience for authoring animations, and it's really powerful. It is very different than traditional CSS animations, but the idea is you have a DOM, right? And you want to animate to a new page. And so you get a browser feature for, it takes a snapshot of your page, just like literally a screenshot of your page. And you can then carve out different regions of that screenshot that are corresponding to DOM. So say you have like the canonical example of this, right? It's like a music player where you get like, here's a list of albums. And so you can take a screenshot of that, take one of those albums, right, and have that like as part of your screenshot. Then you can animate that screenshot to wherever you want it on the page. Then you also get a screenshot of the new DOM that's coming in, and you can animate that as well. And so it lets you do these kind of like animations where you have your like grid of albums, and you click one, and then album art like moves up to the top left corner and expands, and you're at your new page, and you get kind of this seamless transition where you're actually just animating screenshots, and under the hood, the DOM is just like going away and like popping back in. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Check it out if you haven't.
And to add to Mark's hot take, I completely agree. I actually am a strong advocate for UX and animation in applications and making rich animations. And I would love to see something like this Chrome proposal so that you can have more native-like experiences in web apps. So that's to say, Mark, I don't think it's a hot take.
Yeah, and the reason I say it is just that I'm not against native development at all. Actually, I think it's great, but I think if we can just isolate the use cases down to where native makes sense, that's the thing. I feel like people have to do native experiences because they just want like a nice, rich like UI, so they think I need a mobile app, but like a good, finely crafted experience on mobile web could reduce the need for that. Because here's a perfect example. I went to a restaurant with my family, and I paid my bill, ordered my food, everything from scanning a QR code that went to a website. They accepted mobile pay, and it was all a web app. I didn't have to install anything on my phone, which is, I think, the way it should be. But think about even between 2 to 4 years ago, that would have easily had to been go to the Google Play Store, download this app to have this experience. We would have done that easily before. And now the mobile web is really creating more and more. Well, the modern web, not mobile, but the modern web is creating more and more opportunities for us to have those finely crafted experiences that don't require mobile development. Then we got time for a few more questions, and then we got
we got some more. So if anybody has been watching the Angular components repo, you would have seen that the new MDC-based components are now being moved into the main Angular material package out of experimental. So the jig is up? Is that the expression? So
they found us out, Jeremy.
Yeah, so it's public on GitHub now. You could see it. So the plan is to move the new components based on MDC Web into Angular Material. And so in version 15, if you are using Angular Material already, any of the existing components you have, they are going to be automatically renamed with ng update to something like Mat Legacy button for anything that has like an MDC based version. And the new version will just become like Mat button, Mat checkbox. And so your app will continue to work exactly the same way as it did before. And then there will be an opt-in way for you to run a migration that says, switch me from the legacy version of the component to the MDC based version of the component. And the reason that's opt-in right now is because there are visual differences between these components, right? Like a good example, the checkbox takes up more space. The button is a different size. Some of the components, like the vast majority of the change is like API equivalent, right? So like button, checkbox, radio, like all these things, they are like exactly the same API, same inputs, same TypeScript API. So that's all the same. A couple of the components do have changes. Chips and list are really the big ones. They have some changes just because they're kind of like fundamentally different from the original material design version that Angular Material was first based on. So all of that is in the pipeline. And then there's the other question about like updates to the material design system. And so there's been a lot of confusion about this because there are a lot of different like terms being thrown around for updates to material design. So the one most people have seen from Google I/O is this one called Material U, and that is specifically Android. Like there is no like Material U for web. That's not a thing that exists. And so while like they talked about Material U a couple of years ago, there wasn't really anything ready for the web space yet. And we've been working with the material design team inside Google to get to a point where we can like offer the like most updated material design experience, which I think is being called M3. I keep asking that they just use the year along with these versions so it's more clear. So you'd have like material 2022. But I think they're going with like M3. And that it's a little bit less concrete about the timeline for that, but we are hoping to have something before the end of the year. We're waiting on like basically to get some kind of like assets and resources from the material design team in order to make that happen. Like the spec doesn't really have like I'll just say like we don't have all of the stuff we need from material design to like fully support it yet, and so we're working with them to make that happen, and you'll see kind of the evolution play out over the course of the year, I think.
All right. Sorry, my voice has been really weird all day. It's either very bassy or very cracky. We have time for one more question. That's fine. I did this. I sacrificed myself for your question, Starving Musician. I was on my way to the top. What about that new image directive? Before my vacation, I vividly remember that there were commits about that. Is there any news? I think this is about the collaboration with Project Aurora and conformance with the image directive.
Yep, it's still in progress. I think it's at a stage where we want to do some testing with customers. And so I actually put the call out there in this video is if you work at like, on a large app or like thinking like a delta.com or a t-mobile.com or a Capital One or like something like that kind of scale, and you have a kind of image heavy content, then get in touch with the Angular team because we want to trial our new image directive with you.
Also, I hope your vacation was fantastic.
But yeah,
we're all waiting for the pun. That's why we all pause like that.
See, you gotta leave people like expecting, it's part of the routine. You can't give it out every that those puns they have to come like at the right time, otherwise the surprise isn't there.
Fair enough. All right, friends, we played a bunch of games. Let's see. Okay, good. Man, much love back to you, Aurora. Project Aurora, Starving Musician. My brain is not working so great. Still you, Project Aurora. All right. Do we have time for one more question? Because I do feel like I want to get one more in. Y'all got time for one more? All right, we're going to close the show with this. All right. So I'm going to take the game off. We'll answer this final question. With module federation support, it is kind of possible to put, let's say, Angular modules on a separate CDN. Okay. Common for several websites, less traffic on the network. Is that a possibility to use module federation to put your modules on a CDN and serve them that way?
I don't have a good answer for this one. You need Minko for this.
Yeah. Minko Getchev. You know what? Okay, so a couple of things that we can do here. Could you tweet at Angular and ask this question, and then more people will see it from the team who will have more information on this. So please do that. And friends, thanks so much for coming to hang out. Jeremy, you and I'm gonna set something on your calendar so we can talk about the future of the stream and other ways to continue to grow it and improve it. I know one way is to continue to bring Jessica on. I think she has a really nice dynamic here, so we're going to invite you back more often, Jessica.
Please do.
Get involved.
Please do.
Yeah. We got to get our tech up to the next level.
I wanted to play that racing game today. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was really ready to like show my skills because the last time I played a game, I did not play very well, and I didn't play this that well either. But I promise you, friends at home, I am a much better gamer. It is really hard to like answer questions, think, moderate, and play games at the same time. Like you're it's just a multitask. So it looks like I'm just garbage at game playing. Like when I played Celeste and couldn't get past that one puzzle for like 30 minutes. All right, you got to get blocked for that one. I'm sorry. You got to get blocked for that one. You can't call me Tupac. Sorry. That's a no go. That's a no go. Sorry.
I'm seeing
Game is
people
hi
requesting
Tupac.
more mom and dad jokes for the next stream. If I'm here, that's a guarantee.
Listen, that could always happen. All right, friends, we're gonna let you all go. Thank you for joining in on the stream today, Jessica. Thank you for coming, Jeremy. Always great to hang out with you. And until the next time, friends, you know what to do. Go build great apps.